sunlight in Massachusetts to use solar power to generate electricity. So how do we generate electricity? With natural gas and coal and nuclear. Okay. So get this straight. If you're in Massachusetts and you have to build a new home, it has to be all electric. And how are you going to get that electric to the home? Through a coal or gas-fired power plant. Friends, that's just ridiculous. And again, that's why people look at government and scratch their head, because they make decisions that are just ridiculous. Whether you're Anthony Fauci, whether you're Tashara Jones, or whether you're the Massachusetts legislature who wants to eliminate all non-electric houses. Okay? There's my editorial for that. Now, let's get on to, excuse me, let's hang on. Okay, much better. Now let's get on to the essay. ZZ Top. Everybody's heard of ZZ Top, okay? They're one of the most popular bands ever. 3 guys, Billy Gibbons, Frank Beard, Dusty Hill, who play blues-inspired rock and roll. Dusty Hill, the bass player and vocalist, one of the vocalists for ZZ Top, passed away this week, age 72. And so Billy Gibbons and Frank Beard are going to continue on with the band, using Dusty Hill's technician as the bass player. That was with Dusty's blessing. But the goal of the Trophy Wife and I has been to see these rock bands before they are no more. The ZZ Top will be performing at the Washington Town and Country Fair in August. The Trophy Wife and I plan on being there to see them, and we'll see them without Dusty Hill. Now, whether Hill had lived or not, he hasn't played with the band for a while. He's been ill, he's had health problems, and he's since passed away. Interestingly enough, when everyone thinks of ZZ Top, they think of the guys with the beards, okay? Billy Gibbons, Frank Beard, Dusty Hill. 2 of the 3 have beards. The only one of the band who does not have a beard is Frank Beard. Now, that to me is hilarious. Billy Gibbons, big beard. Dusty Hill, big beard. Frank Beard, no beard. That's kind of how they roll, though, okay? And ZZ Top's been around for a long time. They've been around. They've played together for 51 years. Uninterrupted, by the way. They've never broken up. They've never broken up for 5 years and came back and had a resurgence and a farewell tour and a comeback tour. They've been the same band for 51 years. That is amazing. They've had people play in with them occasionally, but they've been, Gibbons, Beard, and Hill. They have been ZZ Top for 51 years. Started in 1969, and actually Billy Gibbons, who's the vocalist, writes most of the music, lead guitarist, he founded the band in 1969. And if you do the math, well, 69, that's more than 51 years, right? Well, it didn't start with those 3 guys. It started with other people. But the band ZZ Top was rooted in blues music. And ZZ Top developed a signature sound based on Gibbons' blues guitar style and Hill and Beard's rhythm section. Popular for its live performances and, of course, the sly, humorous, double entendre lyrics of their songs, and the similar appearance of Gibbons and Hill, who were rarely seen without their long beards, sunglasses, and hats. The group staged many, many elaborate tours. Now, ZZ Top formed after the demise of Moving Sidewalks. That was a group that Gibbons had previously. Within a year or so, the members signed with London Records and released ZZ Top's first album in 1971. In fact, that was the name of the album, ZZ Top's first album. Now, subsequent releases like Trace Hombres in 73 and Fandango in 75, those albums included the singles LaGrange and Tush, and they gained extensive radio airplay. Now, by the mid-1970s, the band became renowned in North America for its live act, highlighted by its performances during the worldwide Texas tour, and that was between 76 and 77. Big success that tour was. They then took a 2-year break in response to creative stagnation and exhaustion. The guys worked and worked and were tired. And ZZ Top reinvented itself back in the late 70s. New musical direction with the now famous Public Image. Now, beginning with the songs, the albums Deguello and El Loco, they experimented with different instruments, clavinets, saxophones, synthesizers, etc. Not just the guitar, bass, and drums. And they established like a more mainstream sound and gained international flavor with Eliminator in 73, Afterburner in 85, both of which integrated influence of new wave music, punk music, and dance rock. Now, the popularity of these albums and their music videos, including Gimme All Your Lovin', Sharp Dressed Man, and Legs, helped propel them into the television channel MTV and made the band one of the more prominent artists in the 80s pop culture. So think about it. I mean, think about LaGrange and Tush, and then Sharp Dressed Man and Legs. Similar sound, but different sound because of the extra instruments. Almost like a wall of sound or similar, okay? Different sound, okay? But same type of music. Now, that Afterburner tour set records for the highest attendance and highest grossing concert tours back in 1986. After gaining additional acclaim with the release of their 10th album, Recycler, in 1990, and its accompanying tour, the group's experimentation continued with mixed success on the albums Antenna in 94, Rhythmine in 96, and Triple X in 1999, and Muscalero in 2003. Most recently, they released an album called La Futura in 2012 and Going 50 in 2019. Going 50 was a compilation of different albums commemorating their 50th anniversary. In fact, as I said before, after Dusty Hill's death this week, Gibbons announced that per Hill's wishes, ZZ Top would continue with Hill's longtime guitar tech, Elwood Francis, on bass. It's the band's first real lineup change in 51 years. Now, ZZ Top had released 15 studio albums and sold an estimated 50 million albums worldwide. The group has won 3 MTV Video Music Awards, and in 2004, the members were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Rolling Stone magazine ranked Billy Gibbons the number 32 on its list of 100 greatest guitarists of all times. Throughout their careers, the bands and the individual members have supported lots of charities: Childline, St. Jude's Children's Research Center, and the Delta Blues Museum. Again, as I mentioned before, the original lineup was formed in Houston, Texas. They're a Texas band, the original Texas band, they like to call themselves, and consisted of Billy Gibbons, Lanier Grigg, and Dan Mitchell. That was in 1969. Now, the name of the band was Billy Gibbons' idea, and the band had a small apartment converted with concert posters, and they noticed that many of the performers used initials. Now, remember, Gibbons was a big blues fan. B.B. King and Z.Z. Hill were two of the guys they were thinking of. And they thought about making the band called Z.Z. King, but kind of too similar to B.B. King. So they figured that the king is going to the top, so they called themselves ZZ Top. Now, at that time, ZZ Top was managed by Bill Ham from Waxahachie, Texas. That's a suburb just south of Dallas. And he was Billy Gibbons' friend from way back when. And they released their first single in 1969 called Salt Lick, okay? Gibbons wrote the songs, but then right after they released it, Greg was replaced by Billy Etheridge, a bandmate of Stevie Ray Vaughan, and Mitchell was replaced with Frank Beard of the American Blues Band. They signed with London Records, was a division of Decca Records, but Etheridge didn't want to be in the band anymore. So he quit, and they signed Dusty Hill, who was Beard's American Blues bandmate. So that's when they started with the Gibbons, Hill, and Beard trio. After Hill moved from Dallas to Houston in just later that year, ZZ Top signed with London Records. That was in 1970. Their first performance, a Knights of Columbus Hall in Beaumont, Texas, on February 10th, 1970. And it went a bit bigger from there. Now, in addition to assuming the role as the band's leader, Gibbons became the main lyricist and musical arranger. Now, with the assistance of Ham, the producer, and the engineer Robin Hood Bryans, ZZ Top's first album, that was in 71, remember, was released and exhibited the band's humor with barrel house rhythms, distorted guitars, double entendres, and innuendos. Think Tush, think LaGrange. The music and songs reflected ZZ Top's blues influence. Those two did. Now, following their debut album, they released Rio Grande Mud, which produced their first charting single, Francine. Now the ZZ Top released Tres Hombres in 73. That reached number 8 on the Billboard 200 charts by early 1974. The album's sound was a result of the propulsive support provided by Hill and Beard and Gibbons' growling guitar tones. Dan Erlewine wrote that the album brought ZZ Top to their first top 10 record, making them stars in the process. The album introduced the boogie-driven LaGrange. That was about the Chicken Ranch, the notorious brothel in LaGrange, Texas. They also made a musical about that same chicken ranch called The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. Same. Now, on the next tour, the band performed sold-out concerts in the U.S. ZZ Top recorded live tracks for one side of their 75 album for Fandango during this tour. Fandango, which also contained one side of a new song, Tush, peaked at number 20 on the Billboard Hot 100. Tejas, released in 1976, would be the band's first album under their new contract. Would be the band's final album under their contract with London Records. Wasn't as successful, but it did get to 17 on the Billboard Top 200. ZZ Top then continued with the worldwide Texas tour in support with Tejas through most of 77, even though they'd been regularly touring for 7 years. The band was then going to go on a 90-day hiatus because they were just worn out. So Gibbons went to Europe, Beard went to Jamaica, Hill went to Mexico. The 90 days extended into 2 years, and during that time, Gibbons and Hill grew chest-length beards. Beard, not so much. In 79, ZZ Top signed with Warner Brothers and released the album De Guelo. And the album went platinum, but only reached 25 on the Billboard chart. I Thank You was one of the songs, and it was a cover of the David Porter and Isaac Hayes composition, okay? And Cheap Sunglasses. There you go. You've heard of that song. Now, I mentioned the song I Thank You, even though that wasn't a huge hit, but it was a cover of a song by David Porter and Isaac Hayes. And you think to yourself, Isaac Hayes? Really? How do Isaac Hayes and ZZ Top have anything in common? Well, that's what I'm talking about. Different bands have huge influence by people you would never think of. And they also influence people that you would never think of. And I found that to be just remarkable. And ZZ Top is one of those bands. In fact, most all of them are. In April of 1980, ZZ Top made their first appearance in Europe, performing for the German music show Rockplast. And the band later played on the BBC show The Great Grey Whistle Test and other bands in Europe. So they became very popular in Europe. And that's where they started in the studio with English electronic band called Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark. Okay. This group inspired them. Okay. And ZZ Top then introduced an energetic dancing style to the live show and began to experiment with synthesizers, not just the guitar, bass, and drum. And that's what featured prominently on the 1981 album El Loco. That album peaked at 17 and featured the singles Tube Steak Boogie and Pearl Necklace. There we go again with the double entendre.